Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, so we are picking up with Batman, the Joker War Part 2, Part Dos. And here's a funny thing, man. Like, I feel like James Tynion's killing it on Batman, which my bigger question is, why didn't they slap him on Batman before? Okay, so the cool thing about this is that this initially picks up in Gotham City, right? And we're just kind of given this idea that it's years from now, right? Some point in the future. But basically, like, you have what amounts to almost kind of like this futuristic version of Gotham, right? I mean, it's almost like a utopia. It's like what Metropolis is, right? It's sunny and it's beautiful and it's not crappy and thunderstormy the way it is now. So basically, like, it's not Seattle, but basically, like, you've got Batman chasing down the Freeze family. Now, it's kind of weird, one, because of the fact that every time I see the name Victor Freeze, I always think of Victor Fries, and two, because he's got kids, right? One of them is called like Snow Cone, and it's like, and the other one's like Ice Pop. It's like, all right, James Tinian, we got to work on your name scheme. A lot of this kind of seems to be individuals or young kids who are just kind of wrapped up in Victor Freeze and taken to be as, you know, more or less like proteges. I mean, as far as I'm aware, Nora doesn't have the ability to produce children unless he made them using, you know, her DNA or something like that. But regardless, Batman takes them out pretty quickly. And then we switch back to the Batcave, right? Like the kids are basically being shunted off so they can receive some kind of treatment. And Bruce Wayne's an older guy. And it's kind of wild to see him that way, because my initial thought was, okay, so like Superman became Batman basically, which is kind of a weird thing, but he's called Master Bruce, so it's Bruce Wayne. And it's kind of nuts, right? Because we're given this idea that like Gotham is everything Batman wanted it to be, that it's this beautiful utopian place where crime is an almost non-existent concept. You do have a few criminals who pop up every now and then, but instead of Gotham being this terrible cesspool of a place where all the worst possible things could and do happen, then instead it's any city everywhere that has some measure of crime, right? For the most part, it's a great place, just a few bad apples. The problem with this is that it's all an illusion, because immediately Alfred just kind of starts losing his mind. His neck snaps, he's got the Joker grin, and he's like, this whole thing is lies. You're gonna die alone with no family, with no one to love you. You're gonna die a lonely, miserable life, right? Like Batman's biggest fears, and then he snaps up, right? Snap back to reality, as Eminem once said. Like he snaps right back up, and he's basically just kind of recovering from this toxin that he was hit with by Punchline. Now, that's kind of the crazy thing, because the toxin that she used is wildly potent, and that's what makes it so wild. I wouldn't go as far as to say Batman has like an inherent, you know, immunity to like the fear toxin of the Scarecrow, but it's something that he's used to. And to have it impact him in this way where he's been out for days is kind of nuts, right? It's kind of wild. Now, of course, Harley Quinn was the one who saved him. You know, Harley Quinn looking the way she is. She's the one who saved him. And of course, she, you know, more or less had herself stitched up, you know, from her injuries. But with the 3 days that he's been out, Batman kind of asks, what's going on? Gotham has descended into absolute madness. And I absolutely adore the way this has been done by James Tinian, right? Because my fear, and I'll be honest with you guys, my legitimate fear going into this, when Tinian was like, well, here comes Joker taking over Gotham, it was going to be a repeat of Endgame, right? Where he just like floods the city with Joker toxin and everybody goes crazy. I was afraid that's what was going to happen. No, not at all. Instead, Joker's there, but it's really kind of Punchline who's running the show. And for the most part, the various gangs of Gotham have all unified under the ideology of the Joker, right? So they're all basically Joker gangs. They've basically taken Batmobiles, turned them into Joker mobiles, Joker cycles, Joker planes, the whole 9 yards. Like all of Batman's gadgets and uses have been handed over to the Joker crowd. The other part of this is that people are basically just kind of fleeing for their lives as best they can. The whole city's turned into madness, but you do have a few instances of people who have taken up arms themselves. It's kind of a cool thing to see, right? The people have basically just taken up arms to protect their city as best they can. And ultimately, that's what it runs into in this kind of situation. That it's only when things are at their absolute worst that people will actually get up and stand up for themselves, right? That if they have somebody there to protect them, to keep them safe, they'll rely on them almost all the time. But for the most part, like any scenario we would expect, the city's madness. You basically have people who are running amok under the mantle of the Joker versus what few people here and there are trying to do what they can to keep themselves safe, while most everybody else is just hiding in fear. And that's why, you know, Batman kind of asks, like, where's the Joker in all of this? And that's where Harley responds, the Joker's not really the one running the show all the time. A Punchline is the one running most of the show that's going on. The Underbroker basically has his lawyers keeping the city at bay, right? So in a lot of ways, it's kind of the Dark Knight Returns, right? Instead of it being Bane that cripples the city of Gotham, it's the Joker who's done it by taking all of his resources and all that kind of stuff. Now, I know there are huge parallels there, but to be honest with you guys, just based on what we've seen with Gotham being the way that it is, I actually kind of think this is better. And so from there, Harley ends up revealing that the Joker kind of has like this, you know, Joker bought up ad time basically in the city of Gotham, because we know with news companies and so on, if the money's there, they don't care. And so what you end up having is basically just like the Joker running ads all the time on TV with the same same kind of thing, right? The guy that you thought died, right? The old man who ran the theater, who apparently didn't know who the Joker was, which is kind of weird. A Z was carved onto his face, which is pretty gruesome. And he tells like this amazing, I mean, it's not funny, but it is a thrilling tale of adventure, romance, and vengeance. A story of a man reborn as a hero. A story of the symbol he would use to mark the world. The Mark of Zorro, remastered and better than ever. This is the Gotham cut. Only 3 people saw the ending last time, and it changed the course of the city's history. What happens when everybody sees the real ending? The Mark of Zorro, now playing back-to-back sold-out screenings at the Monarch Theater. Wide release is only days away, coming to every movie house in Gotham City. And like, as he reads this off, it's like, prepare for the final shot. He's like, no, please. And like, the Joker shoots him. It's not funny, but it is. This is why I love the Joker, man. Of course, this brings back terrible memories for Batman, right? Like Monarch Theater, and Harley grabs him and kind of snaps him out of it, right? And it's kind of cool to see that like Harley Quinn's the one who's trying to pull Batman back from the edge. Like you would think it'd be Selina Kyle in this instance, but at the moment, it's Harley, right? Selina Kyle bailed out, right? It's Harley who's trying to pull him back. And it's interesting to see because you don't really see her in that light. The closest I think I ever really saw to Harley Quinn in this way was during the New 52 Batman run by Scott Snyder, when she approached Batman and told him like, Joker's not who he used to be. Now, of course, that was after she hit him with a sledgehammer and knocked him into a vat while she was wearing a Red Hood mask. You know, she's like, you know, Joker's not the same that he used to be. He's not the same old Mr. J. Like he's different now. There's something different and twisted about him now that wasn't the same way it was before. I feel like that's the closest we got. But one of the things she says here, and this is what's so cool, she's like, you can't go out there right now and do all this. You're not in the mindset to do it. You still got this toxin running through your veins. You still got to let it work out of your system. If you go out there now and you get yourself killed, then like we're all gonna die, right? So it's interesting to see Harley Quinn in this position to where she's like beseeching Batman to stay behind because he's the only one that can really keep them alive. But the cool thing about this is Batman finds a method of control. And that's what I think makes the fear toxin so incredibly potent, right? Because when you're infected with this toxin, your imagination becomes your enemy. But for Batman, he's a wildly focused individual. And what he does is focus all of this into the voice of Alfred. And so it's kind of like Alfred comes back in this regard. That Batman knows Alfred isn't there and he knows he's not real, but letting the fear toxin take the form of Alfred's voice is one, kind of focusing this fear toxin in a way where it's not nearly as potent, and two, putting it to use because he becomes Batman's conscience. And that's kind of what Alfred was, right? He was the voice in the back of Batman's head that was guiding him when he wasn't always there, letting him know what the right thing to do is. And so of course, with everything kind of going down, you know, people being cornered by these you know, gangs and so on and so forth, Batman basically leaps in, takes a few of them out, and then kind of goes about, right? I mean, Batman's not the kind of guy where he would like look at these people being attacked by the Joker gangs and be like, best of luck. Here's a batarang, you got it, and then just take off. Batman's gonna fight those guys off and then, you know, continue on his way to the Monarch Theater. But as he gets in there, it's a horrifying experience for Batman for a variety of reasons, right? One, because The Mark of Zorro, as most of you guys know, was the movie his family went to go see when, you know, of course they were shot. And Monarch Theater was the theater they were coming out of. So this is like a terrifying experience for Bruce Wayne. Now, at this point in his life, he's basically past it. You know, his parents' death is really more of a means to achieve a particular goal as opposed to the thing that kind of haunts him and keeps him down. And so what he ends up doing is once he gets in there, the whole place smells like death, right? Rotting flesh, the whole 9 yards. Everybody in here is basically dead. And it's a wild scenario because Joker pops up and he's kind of like, when Batman asks the question, like, why are all these corpses here, right? Like, they look like they've been decaying for years. The response of Joker is, because they have, right? This is our family. This is everyone that I've killed in the pursuit, in this cat and mouse game that you and I have going on. Everyone who's been a victim of mine. And what I've done is I've given them a kind of toxin. I've given them a substance that will reanimate them. In effect, Joker creates his own zombies and sends them all after Batman. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comments Explain, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.